And get started. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our SBDC workshop, Media Mastery, Get Noticed and Grow Your Brand. We're thrilled to have you with us today, whether you're in person or joining online. I know we have quite a few folks online with us today. And this is going to be a really special session with our keynote speaker, Becky Mosgofian, who is a PR expert. Just a quick note, the session is being recorded and we'll be sending out the link to the recording afterwards for anyone that needs to reference it. Before we dive in, a quick introduction to who we are. We're the Cal Poly Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Small Business Development Center, or SBDC for short. I know that's a mouthful. We're part of a national network of SBDCs focused on driving economic growth by supporting small businesses and entrepreneurs. Our center serves all of San Luis Obispo County, offering no-cost counseling and business training events like this one. If you'd like to learn more or sign up as a client, you can visit our website or just scan the QR code on the screen. We'll also share that link with you after the event. And we're really proud to offer these services free of charge, thanks to the support of our incredible sponsors, both the SBA and the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. A quick housekeeping note, if you're joining us online, feel free to drop any questions into the Zoom chat or the Q&A box. We also cannot see you. We're in webinar mode. So if you are raising your hand, we'll just need you to chat us. We won't be able to see your hand raised visually. If you're here with us in person, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and we'll bring the mic over to you if you have any questions. With that, let's jump in.
Great. Thank you, Nikki, and to the SBDC for hosting me today. And thank you all for sharing your next 90 minutes with us. We have a really diverse group of businesses here online and a few in person. So thank you all for sharing this time. And today I'm going to be drawing from my experiences working with small businesses, nonprofits, and universities to guide this workshop. And if you are an SBDC client, I'm here to help you along the way after the session, or if you'd like to become an SBDC client, please ask us about that because it's such a wonderful organization. So I am going to be reading from notes because this is an action-packed 90 minutes. I want to make sure we get through everything and be able to answer questions. So let's get started. So here's what we're going to be working on. Overview of the topics that we'll be covering, as you know, and then I broke this into 6 sections. So section 1, we're going to talk a little bit about what is public relations. Section 2, we'll go into the actual writing the press release and the details, the specifics of that. And then for section 3, we'll go into pitching it, distributing the press releases. And then section 4 will be the online newsrooms and explaining how to create your own digital press kit. And really, this is about empowering you to do this yourself as a small business owner, and then, or someone working in a small business, perhaps in marketing, or wearing all the hats that we do when we run businesses. There's so many things we do on a daily basis. So the idea is to make it much more accessible for you to use this information and get the results that you want. So at the end, we're going to do a Q&A. I will try to stop about halfway through to answer questions, but for the sake of the pacing and moving it forward, I did want to hold questions to about section 3, just because I get excited and I don't want to lose track of our timing and then not finish. So if that's okay with everybody, we'll do it that way. And what I also like is that, when you do this, you want to take copious notes, and it's hard to listen and take notes at the same time. So I have created a post-workshop resource folder. This is going to have templates in it. It's going to have, how to do the press release, a guide, how to write pitches, how to do the press kit. Some of this are things that we share with our clients when we have meetings with them. So that's in there. Some of the success stories today, some of the research, as well as I also added some case studies last night that aren't reflected on here that we will also be, I'll let you know those are in there as well. Chock full of stuff. It will be dropped into the chat at the end of the presentation, and perhaps we can send it out like with the survey or something at the end too, if people that are here don't have the, since they're here in person. So The idea is that you have a roadmap when you leave to feel like you have it to take it on yourself. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've always believed in the power of storytelling, which led me to a journalism PR degree. I went to Cal Poly Humboldt, and early on, I learned how strategic communication really can drive action. I like when I did a voter campaign, I helped achieve the highest turnout in the CSU system, even though we were a pretty small school. So I was really hooked on the power of messaging and what it can do to incite change and engagement. So over my 30-year career in PR and marketing, I've worked in television, radio, print, CSU, alumni affairs, fashion, event planning, and then while running my agency as well, which is now what I do full-time. In addition to, I've advised hundreds of entrepreneurs through the SBDC, first in Northern California for about 8 years, and now here in SLO with the Cal Poly CIE SBDC. So I absolutely love working with small businesses, entrepreneurs. It's my passion. I love what you guys do. Currently, I'm also working as a communications and social media strategist for a local political campaign and helping with public relations for the Cuesta College Central Coast Writers Conference happening in September. So when I'm not on my computer or phone, which is obviously a lot of the time, I enjoy baking bread and being out in the swimming and the beaches and enjoying our absolutely beautiful area. So let's jump into it. So one of our attendees asked me a really great question. What is the role of PR in my overall marketing plan? So I added a few slides to address this before we get into press releases. So this is for your brand strategy. These are the elements that you'll be working on and addressing, but it's kind of complicated where public relations fits into marketing. So I wanted to just illustrate that before we jump in. So what is public relations? Public relations is the strategic practice of shaping public perception through earned media, storytelling, and relationship building. Essentially, it helps you build credibility and earn trust. Understanding and properly utilizing public relations is a key to a successful brand. So today we're going to focus on number 7, and let's go. So I just created a little graphic there to show the difference and just broad strokes overview. So one thing I love about PR is it can really help level the playing field and between a startup and an established corporation. It can launch an unheard of brand overnight for very little cost, thanks to the role of earned media in all our lives. So we're going to just kind of jump into kind of the background of it and explaining some terms so you have that understanding if you don't already. So earned media versus paid. Earned media is the publicity and exposure gained through organic means, such as media coverage, social media shares, online reviews, essentially free publicity generated by positive word of mouth or third-party endorsements. Where paid media is what we all know as advertising, promotional content in traditional and digital advertising channels. Essentially, earned media is free, paid is paid. So earned media plays a crucial role in building your brand. It builds trust, credibility, social proof. When third parties like journalists, customers, influencers speak positively, people listen. It also boosts SEO by generating backlinks from reputable sources, which improve your search rankings and increase visibility. And in fact, over 50% of website traffic comes from organic search, making earned media a powerful part of your brand strategy. And when a third party speaks positively about your brand, it carries more weight than paid promotion, obviously. And this is one of my favorite examples when that third party is Taylor Swift. It can do dramatic things. So I jumped into this a little bit last night just to kind of update this because I shared this last October. Now the sales are 3,500%. So this company was founded in 2022. In 2024, April, the co-founder said she has a goal in 6 months to try to get Taylor Swift to wear these glitter freckles. So she decided to start pursuing Taylor Swift's makeup artist and sent her the sample. She started getting on TikTok. My dream is for Taylor Swift to wear these, talking it up, doing all the things. So the makeup artist shows them to Taylor. She likes them. She wears them in October to a Chiefs game. And within 48 hours, they'd made $1 million in sales from that moment. So according to an article, which I put into the resource folder, if you want to read more. Every beauty media outlet covered it. It was all press that drove those sales. So now, March 2025, the latest is Taylor Swift approved Phase It Beauty arrives at Target. So now they're using it to, it just shows the power of this small company, 2 women going for it and doing the work and putting in the time to really reach out and try to get in. And it's not always that easy, of course. That's the dream, right? But it's aspirational. So I like to share it because it can happen to anyone. So PR is part of your marketing plan. As I said, public relations is the art of shaping public perception. Now, PR amplifies the why behind your brand, where marketing delivers the what. A product launch or business launch might use a mix of marketing and a PR campaign together to earn media buzz. And I think they're strongest when they work together. I think a lot of reasons people don't always jump to public relations or think to use it is because it's a little bit of a mystery, how to understand how it works and how to do it right. So that's why we're here today, is to show you those tools. So you feel, now it is going to be something you think, oh, I can adapt this. I can use this for this idea. So you'll see going forward as we talk about angles and hooks and how it will just kind of hopefully make a lot of sense. So again, these slides, I was using AI to create them due to the amount of content I was trying to pull together for this. So they may not be the prettiest, but graphic design is not what our class is today. So wanted to show it in a visual way. So what is a press release? A press release is a key tool for sharing your newsworthy information with the media. This is just one example of a press release I did recently. Now we're going to be talking about AP style, which is a standardized format. A lot of you may already be familiar with this, and some of you may not. And I do want to say it's hard to know what the level of experience people have with PR already. Maybe you've already done some of this, so I apologize if it's redundant, but I don't like to approach something without making sure we cover the basics. And sometimes people make assumptions and then we jump into intermediate mode and we've missed some key steps of the foundation. So when to do a press release. Newsworthy, it needs to be newsworthy, and everything really is tied to that. So here are a few examples of when you might do a press release. And the things that I ask you to consider is, would journalists and your target audience find this interesting? Does it have potential to disrupt your industry or impact your community in a meaningful way? Is it timely and aligned with current news and trends? Do you have supporting facts, data, quotes? Do you maybe need to clean up your image? Is the timing right for you? So I always want to say pause before you jump into a press release and say, is the timing right for you? Meaning, let's say you do have a tremendous response. Do you have your product ready? Is your website ready to roll? Are you ready to answer questions? So sometimes we'll put it out because we're excited, or maybe the media comes to us, wants to do a story, and we say, yeah, great, and jump on it, but we're not ready. And then you miss that opportunity to make that good first impression. So always take a pause and say, is the timing right for me as well? And once it's out there, like I said, will you be able to meet the demand or the interest? So how's it? Am I talking a million miles an hour? Is it okay? Thank you. Great. So I like to share some of our SBDC examples that I have their permission to share. This is one of our clients, Dr. Christiana. She wanted to write a press release about her new book. And so she came up with an angle of exciting local story. Author's book hits #1 on Amazon. So what she did is she was #1 in a category in productivity. And so she used that as a catchy headline to get her press release out. And she ended up getting quite a bit of press for her book launch. And she was written up in the Santa Barbara Independent mentioned her. And so that was a great idea. She had to create that hook. So I want to get into talking about angles and how to find that, because it's not always, maybe you don't have something textbook like we had on the list, of like a new product, but you want to get press and you think, I need an idea and an angle. And that's a lot of it, is coming up with the creative side of finding the angle, which is something I love to do and happy to help you with. Brainstorm about that, because it's often there and you may not sometimes even realize you have that unique point of view or perspective. So Christiana also just won Best Education Podcaster for the 2025 Women's Podcaster Award. And of course, she said, "Hey, Becky, I want to do a press release about this. What should I do? Should I do it when I'm getting nominated? Should I do the press release, or should I do it if I win?" And so we talked about the pros and cons of doing that. And I just want to say congratulations to her, because she's really making it happen with her efforts. So that leads us to this creating your story angle, AKA our hook. So one thing I like to say again, and it was appreciated when I was given perspective even about talking about PR, about backing up and going, okay, what's the bigger picture with marketing? Because I was kind of jumping in, ignoring that until it was brought to me. So I would say step back from your own perspective and approach it assuming the audience doesn't know anything about your business. We often take it for granted, thinking that they do. So start there. And then you're going to ask yourself, what sets you apart? Is it innovation, social impacts? Are you an expert in your field? What problem are you solving? That's a big one we go with. Did you know? What problem am I solving? That can be a huge opportunity for a hook. I love that one. Do you have unique personal experiences? Did something happen in your life that led you to create this moment? Everyone loves a story. We go back to storytelling. So hook is storytelling, essentially. And what is going to draw that reader in and think, I need to read this? So, and also, why would a reporter want to write about your announcement? Is it something, we go back to newsworthy. Finally, call to action. So what do you want the reader to do? You visit a link, call a number. I like this because sometimes we'll send it out and then we say, well, is that my fault? I keep hitting a button with that. Sorry. Okay, thanks. We wanted them to have a call to action, and it's very important that that's in there. Are you trying to have them sign up for an event? Are you wanting them to be a part of your new membership program? Be a beta tester for a new platform? So thinking about that. So this is a client of mine, just to give you an example of, oops.
I think it's every time someone raises their hand.
Oh, do we have a lot of questions?
We have.
I'm doing good on, I think we can, yeah, we can take one. I think.
I think we should just go ahead and I'll have her send me the questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So like I said, before I lived here in San Luis, I moved here in 2011. I was in Humboldt County for 20 years. That's where I went to school and worked at the alumni affairs and with small businesses there. And so one of my longtime clients is, I must have turned it off.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. One of my longtime clients is this amazing brewery, Six Rivers Brewery. It's a women-owned. So back at the time, kind of under like what sets you apart. For a long time, the craft beer industry was very male-dominated. It still is in a lot of ways, but it's improving. So back in 2010, they were one of 2 all women-owned breweries in California. So that was their unique story angle. The other one was Lost Coast Brewery, which is a big one. Happened to be in Humboldt County as well. So this is an example of, they weren't the first, they were the second, right? So they're the first female-owned, that's definitely a story. The second, we ran with that. So we created this unique difference about them. And our initial press release about them led to them getting invited to LA Fashion Weekend, which was, and I went with them for that. It was an amazing launch pad, meeting all these different celebrities and people involved with planning events. And they were able to get some TV product placement. They were able to participate in some Oscar and Emmy gift suites and received a lot of press. So that was a launch pad. So I just like to share that because it really was just, how can we do this, put them on the map? And it was a long time ago, but they're still just celebrated their 21st year in business. So congrats to them. Now, Section 2. That was a lot for section 1, but don't worry, some are shorter than others. So now we've talked about your angle. Do we want, yeah, so
Yeah. Sorry, could we hop back to that question
Yeah.
really quick before we move forward? Jonisha Newton asked, who may reporters be? Like contractors, question mark?
who may the reporters be?
Yeah.
So reporters could be local media outlets. It would be determined based on what you're writing about and what your target is, which we'll get into more when we talk about distribution. Industry publications. So you might have local, you might be targeting industry, you might be going after influencers. When I say reporters, it's kind of it's a loose term for people that want to cover, that you want to cover your story. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts. This is super important. It is a little more dry, but it's essential to the success. So crafting the press release, we're going to just jump in. So what is AP style? Now, I don't know how many people have heard of it. Is that just a term everyone knows, or just the people that had to suffer through it in class like I did? So AP style refers to writing guidelines established by the Associated Press. It's whether you're looking at the Wall Street Journal or reading the New Times, the format will be the same. So it's important that you follow it and use it as a guide to write your press release. So also if that little book of pain, it was this spiral book in college, because I went to school in the 90s. We had to have it. If we didn't have it in class, we'd get marked down. So it's kind of like I see it and I go, oh, cringe, but now it's all online, of course. So now, crafting your press release to attract the right earned media. So we're talking about defining your why, knowing your goals before you write it. So a few questions you could ask, would be these. Is it to increase awareness, engage your local community, sell a product or service? A number of things that it could be. Announce a partnership or a milestone, an award you won. Now, back to the reporter question. Are you going after traditional media, industry publications, certain influencers? Maybe you're pitching a podcast. Maybe you want to be on a YouTube program, or anything like that. Even if you want to be, maybe you're going to pitch investors. Maybe you're trying to get some funding and you need to, it all kind of works in these ways of, think of them as the stakeholders. So are you looking at written or visual media or both? So once you determine your why, you will start developing your content strategy and your visual storytelling elements. So these are the tips for writing and engaging in newsworthy press release. And after this, I'll show you the actual template that I've shared. But so when I was doing my research, PR Newswire, which is the industry leader in wire services, which we'll talk about in a bit, but they gathered their top 15 press releases for 2014. Each one included some form of multimedia, whether it's a photo, a logo, video, or a combination. So when we're working on a press release, I always say, what are you sending out with it? Are you sending a photo? Do you have a video? If you do, fantastic. And if you don't, it's okay, but try to send something that will garner interest. And also you want to think, sometimes they might just run a headline in a photo. That's happened so many times that you send an image and the story doesn't run, but the caption and the photo run. And so I've said always, you want to, as we're talking about it, the caption for your photo is also key. You want to make sure it's not just a blurb, it's actually reiterating the 5 who, what, when, where, and why of your reason for doing your story. And again, we'll cover it more, but I just wanted to mention it so I don't forget. What else is on here that I didn't say? Okay, I think that's good.
We have a couple questions online, unless you wanted to.
Yeah, great.
Later. Jonisha Newton said, is writing a press release good for your business?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is writing it? Yes. And it depends on, it's always a good idea, but you want to make sure that you're utilizing the reporter's time or the journalist's time. So you want to say, is this the right thing to send? Because you don't want to spam, you don't want to send something every week, or it needs to be intentional, but yes.
And Tara Yarberry says, hi, Becky. After Humboldt, I moved back home to Modoc. We are limited in our media outlets with one newspaper and no dedicated television news. Action News in Reading covers us sometimes. I've noticed that Facebook, sorry, groups and pages tend to be the place where news is spread. Is there anything to think of when navigating this space with a press release as opposed to sharing in more traditional media outlets? Sorry.
Hi, Tara. Tara she worked at my son's preschool, who's now 20 years old. So it's so cool to see her here. Thank you for being here. And so she's saying she's in a small market. There aren't a lot of media outlets. So she's utilizing social media, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, to spread news. It is extremely important to utilize social media channels, and it goes back to your audience. So, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but let's say Facebook is an opportunity, because with Instagram, it's harder to share your news. You know, you have to use one link or use the link in the bio, where Facebook, you have more latitude with sharing your press release and pasting the link with the photo. It's a great resource, but is that your audience? You know, so depending on the organization, is your customer on Facebook? Then it's worth it. If it's, yeah, so it depends on who you're going after. But it is really important because, as I'm going to show later, social media has become where a majority of Americans are getting their news. So there were a few questions in there. Did I get to that one specifically or miss something? Ask
I think that
Tara.
was it. I can read it one more time. Sorry, it was spaced out. Okay, the first part is I've noticed that Facebook groups and pages tend to be the place where news is spread. Is there anything to think of when navigating this place or space with a press release as opposed to sharing in more traditional media outlets? It's like how specifically to go about Facebook PR and media coverage potentially.
So usually you're sharing a press release that you receive, or if you're like, say you're in a local publication, you would share that story on Facebook. If you're coming in sharing a press release on Facebook that hasn't been published, that's a different conversation about, you can utilize free different PR websites, and I talk about that a bit later, but you can post it online to get a link and then share that on Facebook. So if you can't get traction with your local media, there are options to get your news online and then share it through various channels such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. So I kind of think that's what she's asking. So yes, we'll cover it more in a bit. And if I don't answer it or you want clarification, let's come back to it.
She says you answered.
Thanks. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is mind-numbing slide that is the template for a press release, but I have to show it. So, and this is in the resource folder. So you're going to be able to see this, make a copy, use it. I did want to go in and break down the different meanings of them and how long they should be, what they are. So again, I refer you to the folder where you'll see this more, but a proper press release format, includes a headline. You want it to be strong action verb, not a question, and not first person, and 70 to 75 characters. Dateline, this is something that is important. You want to have the city, state, month, date, and year. And if, say you're in New York City or San Francisco, you don't include the state, but most cities you would include the state. The date is the date you're sending it out. Lead paragraph. So the lead is the first paragraph of a news story. It's usually the most important part as it sets the tone. So it's the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. And you're also using it as a hook. So it's also the hardest. Sometimes I say, write the whole rough draft, get your ideas down, come back and fine tune the beginning. So the body paragraph, you're going to have a few short paragraphs. Now, quotes, super important. You want to have a quote from your stakeholder, your CEO, your customer, sometimes it's your media representative, but you want to hear from a real person. And the thing I love about quotes is that's where you can have your opinion. So when you're writing a press release, it's facts. It is going to read like you'd read it in a newspaper, right? Or in a publication. So the only chance you have to have some opinion is with quotes. So I think they're key. And also add human interest. That call to action. Now, boilerplate, some people go, what is that? That is something that you're going to include. It's like an about us at the end. So a background about the company. And multimedia, which we talked about. You always want to have a photo credit. So if you send a photo and it doesn't say where it came from, they won't be able to use it. Sometimes they'll ask you, sometimes they'll just not use it. That means that if you had a professional photographer who needs to have the credit, you have it, but sometimes and often it's courtesy photo, business name or person. That totally works. Media contact. This is not for the general public, only the reporter. It's really important that it's your cell phone or whoever's you're working with, that it's there, something they will answer even on a Saturday. Okay. Write a strong headline. You're going for 75 characters or less, and that will help with SEO. That will help with it getting read. So, oops, let me turn my paper pages as I'm just clicking through here. Make sure I don't miss anything. But words like show, reveal, allow are some of the least used, but they get the most views. Launches, offers, releases. Incorporate relevant keywords to improve search visibility to attract your audience. And test different options. And this is a great way to use AI, is trying different headlines. You can take your headline, maybe your brain is numb after working a 10-hour day trying to figure this out, and you say, okay, give me 10 different headlines as an alternative, and you can see if something else will strike your, that's the word I was looking for. Now, avoid these pitfalls and get results. So again, I have this whole page in the folder about what not to have in a press release: adjectives, emojis, exclamation points, not using first person, using third, avoiding it sounding like a sales pitch. Sometimes people jump in with acronyms, assuming everyone knows what it is. So if you do an acronym, you want to say the full name first and then the acronym. So I have that in there, but for the sake of the slides, I'm just giving you kind of a few highlights here that you'd follow AP style. You want to keep it to 250 to 400 words, really keep it to one page. There's really not, you don't really want a press release that's more than a page, because everyone is, it's hard to get it read. And that's, again, another opportunity to use AI, is you can go in and say, shorten this. I need this to be, shorten this by half and keep the key elements of this press release, or keep the key thoughts or my tone, etc., which we're going to show. I have some examples of that. Okay. Not knowing your audience, remember your goals. Number one pet peeve: don't rely on ChatGPT to write your press release for you. It's obvious, but use it. So, using AI to beat writer's block. I wonder, I would love to know, has everyone used AI in some form? Yes? It is becoming so part of our lives in every way, right? When I first created this workshop in October, I touched on it, but even since then, I'm changing the way I use it more every single day. So it's rapidly moving with us. So I did want to add some elements today to make sure I am being relevant for you guys and giving you the tools that I'm learning, so that I can, help you, because I'm finding things like, oh my gosh, this is such a time saver. So, we use AI to beat writer's block, but it should never supplement your authentic voice. And ideas for AI, like I said, headlines, brainstorming, editing, proofreading, crafting an email pitch from your press release. That's a great way to get that pitch going. So, but always, you always want to fact check your results. There's a lot of misinformation, and it can be surprising what you find in things. So don't take it for, what I mean by that is, if you see something, go in and look for a reputable news source, or back it up by something that you trust. And if you're going to use something, just make sure that it is accurate. So this is something I thought was kind of funny. AI can't replace human connection, your story, your passion for your business. So change up those adjectives. So this was a story that ran, and I have this in the resource folder, but the AI's impact on journalism is, looking at news content over the past 4 years, we can see an astronomical increase in content that includes words intricate and unwavering, up 20,000%. So it's just funny how we're becoming the best writers. You'll get a response from someone, wow, that's so eloquent. So I think we're starting to see through it a little bit. But now, so we're going to look at, you've written this press release, and then we're going to talk about distribution. So you've written, now let's see, where am I at? So you've written the press release. Now we're going to talk about the right strategy to get it featured in the media. And moving on to the next slide. There we go. So first I want to look at real quickly how we consume news. And then we're going to go into the distribution, which is the hard part, right? You have this press release. How the heck do I get it into the hands of people that need to see it, which is the can be the challenge. And then online newsrooms and digital press kits. So let's see. So when I first taught a version of this workshop at SBDC in 2009 or 2010, I had a room full of small business owners. We didn't have Zoom. And I would hold up a stack of newspapers and ask them to guess how many stories in the paper were generated from a press release. And at the time, it was about 40%. So a lot of news that we read is actually sent from a press release that initiates the interest from the reporter. So that was about the same time internet news was really gaining traction. And so I was looking this up, and in 2008, right before Facebook, right when Facebook was starting, more Americans reported getting their national and international news from the internet than newspapers. So I don't know about you, I still really enjoy reading a paper, but it doesn't, so we're on the go more than ever, which means news is mobile, but I still love like picking up a paper. That's my friend. This is this week. I helped her with this. I volunteered to help this with the PR for this. And it's so thrilling when you get it and you go, hey, that was something that we did. So digital can't replace that feeling and that smell of newspaper, but we know for realities, we have to start, it's on the internet, but I still love picking up the paper. And I'm sorry to see it in decline because, it's advertisers are pulling back on that. And so they lose their reporters. We work with a skeleton crew of reporters that are just working so hard to get the news out. And it's a shame. So I'm always going to be a appreciator of a newspaper. So now, how has it changed? Well, 86% of adults are getting their news from digital devices. This is from Pew Research Center, which is considered a highly reputable source for data collection. And 57% are getting their news from their devices. I mean, how often do we pick up our phone and look at the headlines first thing? So TV news still took second place, a visual medium with 33% using TV often. We have, I think, the local news outlets here do a tremendous job trying to cover as much as possible. I see them everywhere, and I appreciate them. And I think that we're still going to have these crews are putting themselves in harm's way all the time to get the story. So we're very lucky for that. So Facebook and YouTube continue to outpace all other social media sites. I was shocked that about half of TikTok users under 30 say they're using it to keep up with their politics. So if you are using social media, understanding how your customer consumes their news is key. Now, what we do when we make a mistake is assuming that our customer consumes the same news that we do and that they like the same things that we like. So we have to be real careful. That's why going back to your brand strategy and your customer identity, knowing your customer is going to be key when you're doing your media strategy. So I like to share a little story here, success story of local Haley Pavone. Is it Pavone or Pavone? Pavone. So social media is quickly leveling the playing field for small businesses. So Haley is the founder and CEO of Passion Footwear, who developed a concept for a convertible heel that transforms to a flat. It's beautiful shoes. She launched the company while she was a student at Cal Poly, and the CIE and its programs like Innovation Quest and SBDC played a crucial role in its early development and success. So recently, she created a TikTok expressing her frustrations with how tariffs were harming her business. And 4.5 million views later, she was even tweeted by, she'd been on Shark Tank and had an offer and turned it down. But Mark Cuban still tweeted this, sent it on X and helped promote it. And so then she gets invited by different news, including CNN, to come on there. And next, she was invited to testify to Congress about her experience. And so she's wearing her shoes. She used a high visibility promotional opportunity to share the positive reactions from women on Capitol Hill. She is sharing. Fantastic. And they were all like, I need these shoes. This is incredible. Think of how many women are walking all day in heels. So, so that leads me to like something I just kind of wanted to touch on briefly, which is what's the difference between publicity and public relations? So what she received for her business is publicity. Publicity and public relations are closely related, but not the same. And again, the slide AI, it was just kind of a quick try to break it down. But an example here. So a news outlet features your product after seeing it on social media and so forth. That's the publicity that Passion Footwear is getting. It's earned, maybe not controlled. It can have positive or negative intention, but in this case, extremely positive. Now, publicity is what you get. PR is what you do to get it, which is more of a strategic communications process. That is a plan. And an example might be a PR team or your team crafts a press release, pitches it to reporters, arranges interviews to share the brand story. So what I did is I created an example of a company that in the resource drive, step by step, what they did. So when you go in there, you'll see it's called PR campaign example, and it's a sustainable pet company. And so I went in there and what they wanted to accomplish, what their hook was, what their press release was, how they sent it out to the media, how they got their interviews. And it's all just an example. It's not a real company, but I wanted you to see the steps because I'd love to go into all that today, but we would run out of time. Sharing all this is hard. It's like I want to tell you so much, but I also don't want to create such overwhelm that it feels out of reach or it feels like, oh, I can't do this. So that's why I have so much available after. And as you're working on it for your own business, feel free to ask me questions after the workshop or an email, keep in touch so I can help if you get stuck or say, hey, what about this? I'm here for you. So distribution, media relations, building your distribution list. This has been one of the most difficult things as a PR person. You have to keep these updated media lists. And this is just an example of one, but writing the press release can be the easy part. Getting it picked up and placed can be what takes much longer than the actual writing itself. So I'm going to explain the difference, distribution timelines, creating your list, and then the difference between when you're pitching with just an email and when to send your press release. And before I jump into distribution, because I know it's a whole other topic, are there any questions pending?
Yes, we do have a couple of questions. First, Don Maruska says, my book, Solve Climate Change Now, is a couple of years old, but still very relevant. What are some strategies to get press now? Link to major climate news, etc. ?
So he's an author.
It sounds like it. I have a little bit of context. I'm a serial entrepreneur and master coach, now focused on mobilizing more people to boost awareness, action, and advocacy for a healthy climate. I'm interested in ways to boost awareness of my work and both volunteer and paid presentations and workshops.
So he's so I would ask him to look at what current affairs, what topics are going on in the world right now that he could tie in his book, even though it's a couple of years old. Is the book a vehicle to get the speaking opportunities? Most likely it's to get those. So that's where you would say, how am I relevant, even though this book isn't brand new? How is what I'm doing relevant to and topical to current events? And that would be thinking up the hook. And then thinking, what is his goal? What is his end goal? Does he want to get speaking engagements? Does he want to get one-on-one clients? And working from that point of view. So.
And then one more question, also from Dawn. I don't see any coverage of using LinkedIn. I'm after professionals and am turned off by Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. What about using LinkedIn? Should I just get over it and participate in Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and find a younger person to do it with or for me?
So tell me again about the LinkedIn. What did he say about that at the beginning?
I don't see any coverage of using LinkedIn. I think this was just a few moments ago when we were going through different options, but I'm after professionals. So the audience would be professional audience, and I'm turned off by Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So it seems that they have a preference for using LinkedIn, but they're not sure if that is.
And I absolutely agree with using LinkedIn. And it is when I made that slide, originally I had a couple other slides that showed all the different social media, including LinkedIn, and who's using them. So I would encourage them in that folder, when you look at the Pew Research, there are some deep dives about who's using LinkedIn. Absolutely. If you're going after professionals, that is where you want to also be sharing your press. And I feel like I left it off and I shouldn't have. So I would consider that as when we're talking about Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, knowing your audience, and LinkedIn has become, I think it's growing really fast. I think as things, even in the last few years, LinkedIn has become the premier place really to be sharing your news. So how is it going to be shared? And are you going after, again, it comes like this gentleman, what his customer is a professional, he's looking for is a professional. So absolutely LinkedIn is going to be utilized in that way. So you want to make sure you have a strong business profile. It's showcasing your experience and linking into your book and your speaking engagements. And just, again, you can take what you have in LinkedIn and you could even put it into AI and say, my goal is I want to get this type of customer. How would you revise my LinkedIn page to address this end user, to attract this stakeholder? So definitely. And I do think that was an oversight on my part, including that more. So thank you. We're good on any more questions? Okay. So, okay. So this is how I do it. I create these spreadsheets and update it constantly with your regional media list, your national, your statewide, industry publications. And we'll talk a bit about that in a second, but distributing your press release. So you're going to build your list, your spreadsheet, and then you're going to send a personalized email. You don't do a BCC and send it to everyone. You have to now, this is the part that is tedious. You have to send a personalized message to each person. This might be an email. It might be a DM. It might be a message through LinkedIn. You know, it's really what you're going after, but it is a personalized point of contact. So this is how I like to do things. I think it's the most effective because it eliminates the chance for spam. It doesn't use attachments. So this is just an example. I think I'm sure I created that in AI, and we're going to go more into that. So when to send it out, the standard is 2-week lead time for print, or for a if you're doing a magazine, if you want to pitch a magazine on a profile on you, for example, and it's a printed magazine like Edible Slow, that is 4 to 5 months out. You know, they're moving much further in the future. I like to say it's 2 weeks before an event. You want to send out your press if you're doing something that is a even longer, but it's always been the standard that we'd say a 2-week. If you want to get an in-depth interview, you're going to send it out sooner. So it kind of depends. The point, you don't really want to send something too close. Like if you're doing let's say you're having an open house, you don't want to send it out 3 days before to print. Now, if you're sending it to KSBY, they work last minute. I would still recommend sending it to them 2 weeks in advance, but that's when you absolutely want to follow up right before and make sure they're coming. So you never want to send a press release on a Friday, a weekend, first thing Monday. There's recommended Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because you don't want it to get lost. Now, I don't know if you guys know about Google Alerts. Do you guys use Google Alerts? It's such a great resource because it can have, you can go in and sign up for Google Alerts, and you have your business name, your competitor's name, anyone that you want to be tracking, your industry, what's going on in aviation, or maybe you want to say, I mean, you could go anywhere, but you want to go in and have Google Alerts. You're going to get an email in every day, or whatever settings you choose, alerting you to when something's in the news. So for example, I'm doing this Central Coast Writing Conference. So I'll get an email or get a message, that it ran. So how do you know? You can see you wake up and you say, oh my gosh, my story's in the news. So it will notify you when your keyword is in the news. And okay, so one thing I also like to recommend is called HARO, H-A-R-O. It's Help a Reporter Out. And that's great because you can sign up for free, and you can say you're an expert in different industry, or you can be speak to different industries. So they might have health, retail, like any kind of category you can think of. There are reporters looking for contacts for their stories. And I will say SlowCal does that too. SlowCal is a local website that you can go on, and there's a media section, and you can ask to join the list and see the pitches that they're looking for. This is super helpful. If you have a business where tourism is part of it, you can go on there and look at these different pitches, like Hambly Lavender Farms, for example. They'll say, we're looking for people that are retired, or gals that are coming from a book club, are coming to the Central Coast, and they're looking for things to do. Maybe it's wine, maybe it's not. And then you can say Hambly Lavender Farms, and say, oh, this is a perfect place to come and tour our farms. So you look at what they're looking for their stories, and then you pitch to those. So that's one example of pitching. But yeah, check out SlowCal if that applies to your business. So what is a media pitch? So it's just a short communication. Like I said, it could be an email or direct message suggesting a news story. I really like Muckrack is a professional organization that does this for huge clients. And I shared their, in the resource folder, you can see how to write a media pitch, how to write a subject line, what to include, customizing it for various mediums. So that's in there. And then it used to be, we're writing from this blank page, but just this last week, I was working with a client, and this was what I was able to do. It was pretty exciting. So they are working on launching their new platform, and they're in the United States and France. So that they were getting stuck. They were sending out pitches, their press release. They weren't getting, and they're here today. So I'm glad they're also listening in, and I'm part of the class today. But they were kind of getting stuck. So we had a meeting to talk about what we could retool and tweak. And so I started going into ChatGPT, and it was able to actually find and make us a list of journalists to target. Now, I checked the emails, and they are real journalists. They're real emails. They're something that is so hard to find. So when you're trying to write a story and you think, I want to contact Jake Tapper at CNN, for example, you're not going to find the email. It's impossible. You have to do a deep dive, or you go to the newspaper and you say, I want to send something to the editor. How do you find this? So you will often find that there's a press link or our news team, but the bigger the publication, the harder it is to find. Sometimes their email address may be at the end of a story, but it's difficult. So this took some time. It kept saying it was going to give it to us right away. It took a lot of reminders, but I was able to get this document, which was pitch templates and strategy, a starter list of US and French journalists based on the beat, which was the different industries, tech, arts and culture, and what else? So they verified the emails, the suggested angles, and formatted. Also, I asked if they could, with the email, if they could write a compliment to the reporter. I always say, if you can say, I'm contacting you because I really liked your story about the SBDC's new hothouse location, or I appreciate how you cover local business so often, and I thought this story would appeal to you or to your writer, because we're kind of playing to the ego, you know? They're getting tons and tons of emails, and you want to stand apart by showing you are paying attention. Again, relationships and making that human connection. So we're using AI tools, but we're really it's giving us a shortcut so we can spend more time on developing that that content. So here's one of the pitch templates it gave me. We used their press release to generate this. I took out their name, just used client instead of their name. And then their marketing person is going to be using these and sending them out. And here's the names: Fast Company. I love Liz's. It's just so exciting, you guys, because it is saving you so much time and actually giving you a bigger chance than you had before when getting access to these folks. So best send times, follow up. I think that sometimes we send out, I hear this all the time, 75% of the time, I sent it out and no one responded. Okay, so why? There was an attachment? Maybe it went to spam. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they never saw it. And then there was an example of a gentleman I spoke to who was pitching a new book, and he was doing a Kickstarter. He was reaching out to Newsweek, and he tried 6 times. And on the 6th time, the reporter said, "Thank you so much. I saw your email." So if you try once and think it didn't work, or try twice, so I say follow up 3 to 7 days after the first time with 1 sentence, just checking to make sure you got my email, and keep it in your spreadsheet. You can have a date you sent it, the date you attempted again, and so forth. And I know this is a lot of information, and I'm going a lot of different directions, but I don't want to miss out on telling you some of these things. So this is just an example of one I did. It's not the greatest one ever. It's just one that I just could think of to show you. So the email subject, I was announcing the writers conference. I met Sky at the conference last year, so I mentioned that. So what I want you to look at is at the bottom. Press kit link contains this press release, images, event logos. So instead of attaching, I created a press kit link in a Google Drive. When you click on it, these are the elements that I had. These examples are in the folder. This is an example of an SBDC client who used an email pitch with press release, and I helped him with that. He was featured. He's in Atascadero, very talented guy. He's in McLaren, his works in McLaren headquarters. He was on HGTV. I mean, he wasn't even talking about that stuff. We're like, brag about yourself a bit here. And then he was astonished at how much press he got. So he used the tools, sent it out, and they all just were able to use it because it was so comprehensive. This is one of my my favorite stories, and I think that Timon is listening today. I think is Timon on here? He signed up. So hi, Timon, if you are. So I was able to pitch his dream. He's launching his company. It was new business, and he really wanted to be in Dwell publication, which was the dream. So they only accepted pitches, and we send him a message, you know, because I went on, I thought, how am I going to reach out to Dwell? They didn't have a way to send a press release. They didn't have a way to send email. There was a form, and I did this pitch, and then he responded, you know, I'd love to consider an online piece. Do you have a press kit or an image gallery you can share? And since they were really new, they didn't have one. So we quickly put one together using the Google Drive. And I was like, hey, so great to hear from you. Perfect timing. We're just finishing our press kit. I'll send it to you on Monday. Will that work? And then Timon and his team got busy putting it together. And then he responded, and they wanted some additional lifestyle photography. They loved the story, but needed different pictures. So Timon hustled to get the photos done. And they ended up saying, can we have an exclusive on this story? And it was such an exciting thing. So it led to a lot of inquiry calls for him. And then New Times also covered it. So they shared it on social media. And that's an example of how to do that and kept the press going. You know, have it on your website, have it in all the places, which gets us to that last, one of the last sections. So we have an hour so far. How are we doing? Feel like I'm like, are you guys okay? Am I okay? I feel like I'm forgetting a lot of things, but hopefully I'm not. Okay, so one thing I like to add that I didn't do in my first workshop is PR wire services, distributing press releases nationally. So a PR wire service is an opportunity to pay a little bit of money or a lot of money, and they will distribute your press release for you. Some of them promise more than they can deliver. Some are like PR Wire is the gold standard. So that's the one that has the most credibility, but you're going to pay the most money. If you have something that's really important in some cases for compliance for publicly traded companies, these services provide service. You have to do this to meet regulatory requirements, I was learning. So there's different reasons you would use a wire service. They can cost anywhere from like $40 for doing a basic to thousands, and they can help improve your search engine optimization and drive traffic to your website because it can be picked up on hundreds of sites. So services like Business Wire offer targeting options for reaching specific industries, geographic locations, and demographics. So if this applies, bless you, if this applies to you, I highly recommend you checking this out. And it should be in that resource folder. If it's not, please ask me about it. I'm happy to talk more. But it is a great way to get your news online without having to be pitching it yourself or doing what we've been talking about. You give it to them and then they do that. There's media getting placed and picked up. Placed is when they know it's been sent out to these media outlets. Placed is when it actually appears. So read through them, make sure they're what you need before you spend any money. If you have any questions, please ask us. I'm not recommending, just to be clear, I'm not saying you should use these. Do your own research. I just want to show you some of the tools that are available. Okay. So you have your press coverage now, where to share it. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but you're going to, one thing I love to say is always thank the person that did the coverage. Send them a thank you card if you're old school. That's completely unexpected and appreciated. Send an email because you never know when you're going to need them again. And it's also nice because they get a lot of complaints. So getting a thank you, that press really helped us, or you wouldn't believe how many people read it in New Times. It got X amount of business, people calling us and thank you for supporting small business. So then you're going to share it far and wide, LinkedIn, social media. You can send it through your email marketing. You can do it on your website. You can send it to your stakeholders. Hey, did you see this? Use it at a trade show. Leverage the heck out of it. Tell your mom, she'll share it on Facebook. So, it's just funny. There's, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there's so many ways to have it continue to work for you. And sometimes, like I showed you my friends at Six Rivers Brewery, that framed article from 2010, you walk in there, you go to the hostess stand to put your name in, that's still on the wall. I mean, it's important to celebrate yourself and also show people that you're credible and they should trust you. And I think it's fantastic to think of all the ways you can share it. Yeah, so now, speaking of sharing, that leads us to the next section, which is going to be the newsrooms and press kits. So are there any questions before I go to the next? No? Okay. Is anyone still here? Just kidding. They're stuck because I see them. Just kidding. Everyone's left. Nope. Okay, so and we're going to look at the difference between, and we're going to talk newsrooms and press kits, building your newsroom, what's a press kit, and 3 ways. There are many more ways than that, I'm sure, but 3 to do it, to get you going. So the differences. Unlike actual media coverage, an online press room is where you can completely control your own narrative and decide what to make public. It's also a go-to place for journalists, influencers, investors, potential customers, even employees who want to know what your company's up to learn about you. And I included more articles and examples on this in the folder. But why do you need it? 99% of journalists say it's important to provide access to news releases. 94% say it's important to have access to photographs, and 89% indicated the availability of a digital press kit as important. 75% say video files are an important component of an online newsroom. So making it as easy as possible, like we're talking about skeleton crews and how no one has time. Look at how busy we all are. When you provide the materials to them, the resources, it's going to get you the quotes you want. It's going to have factual information about your business. It just gives you a real advantage, a lead in the race on getting that information. So and it's also so professional. So in that, the examples I showed you, when we link to the press kit, let's show you what would be included. We'll get to that. So, and then the newsroom, this is kind of an example, no two are alike. Unlike a press release that has an AP style that's the format, you do these however suits your business and your audience. So I like to say that if you can't necessarily pull together your press kit and your press release, you want to get live as soon as possible, I would say make sure you have a contact us for press inquiries at the top. And if you can create a second email, great. If not, you have an info. But yeah, have that email there so that they know they can get a hold of you. And how you'd be surprised how many businesses don't have this. How many businesses don't have a press page or newsroom or any information? When you look at your website, this is something I didn't say earlier, but if you look at your website and you don't know what you do in 5 to 10 seconds, no one does. I use that as a barometer. I look and I say, okay, what is this business? I'm not really sure. Then I look in an About Us. Can I learn from that? About Us is a good place to have your press information if you don't want to have your own. So think of it as, you're hanging out your shingle, and if people don't know what you do, it's going to be confusing. And if people are confused, they typically don't say yes. So keeping that in mind. This is the Caffeinated Cat is one of our SBDC clients, and she shared a lot of the press that she got when she was first opening, and then her press kit's coming soon, but she has her information there. So a few examples. Now, as I was saying, journalists are really busy, people are really busy. Directing them to the press kit to control what is sent out versus them deciding or trying to figure it out is going to help you. It's also nice because when you say, here's our press kit, you have something that you can build on. So maybe you send them a press release and then they're going to say, I didn't know they also did this. Or here's these pictures. Sometimes you'll send pictures and you hope they might use them. And then so providing more is better. So let's see. Yeah, that's kind of covering that one. Now, what to include in your press kit. Not all of these are mandatory, but I think you should try and do as many as possible. Brand assets, the logo, style guide, if you have that, logo in different colors, media contact events, the gallery, the photos, the headshots, product details. Again, in the resource folder is how to create a digital press kit. All of this is in there. I do really like the Google Drive. Not everyone loves Google, but it's the simplest way. You make a public link, you can add to it and update it. And, when we're wearing all the hats, it's a simple way to keep things current. Because if you have something complicated, it's going to be harder to get back to fixing it and improving it. If you want to not have it online, if you want to be, for whatever reason, you can do a PDF files or folders on your website. So if you did that, when I said don't attach a PDF, I would say, like in the email pitch, let me know if you'd like our press kit, or if you're DMing someone or messaging someone on LinkedIn, you would also say, you could provide it, or you can just say, I can share it with you. So there's not really one way to do it. It really depends on your industry. So this is a big company, Headspace. They do something we all need: meditation, breathing, calm me down. So I like how they have their setup. So in the bottom, you see press about us. So you click that button. This is the page you see. This is a split. I just put it together, but you'll see the press and media. They just have their simple for press influencer inquiries. Please email us. And then below that, they have Get Our Press Kit. And I like this one because it shows that they use Google. Click on that, and they're using a mix of PDF. They're doing PDFs. So a mix of, so they have the, click into the link, you go to the Google Drive. They have their bios. You can see all the different aspects of things that they have. I just thought, hey, you know what? They're a huge corporation and they think Google works, so why can't we? It feels accessible and I like that. So now, section 6, we've made it to almost the end. And you guys are still, thank you. So I wanted to share some success stories and answer questions, of course. So here's a few recent SBDC success stories. Now I want to highlight, first of all, Quantum Energy Business of the Year. That would have been Cal Poly sending that out and getting picked up. So photo by Ruby, you can see on there that they have their photo credit under there. AngelCon winner, GreenSight Technologies. I don't know how many of you went to AngelCon. It was amazing. And Jake Daniels did a fantastic presentation. And so he and I were working together on PR, and he wrote he has his press release about winning, and he sent it to Recycling Today, industry publication. They ran it, and they said, keep us posted. They're launching a beta version of their product, and they said, send us your next press release when you're ready. So they said, keep in touch with us. So that was like, it was so thrilling to see that he was in Recycling Today, because that's exactly who his customer is. So check them out, GreenSight, if you don't know them. And then again, kind of what we learned from Haley's journey with social media, just to recap. If you're going to use that tool, be relevant and real. You can speak to current events. Not everyone wants to do TikTok. I am not a TikTok enthusiast, or I know it can be overwhelming if you don't have that. You can have people help you make those videos. It's not, I'm not saying you have to do it. It really depends on your marketing strategy and who your customer is. But tagging people who can amplify your message, and of course, always thinking, how can I be promoting my product? So, and there's many, many more success stories I haven't shared today, but for the sake of time, we wanted to just share a few. So you're going to create these opportunities. They don't just happen, but I think with these tools, it makes it more accessible, so you don't have to feel like you have to hire an expensive PR firm to do it for you. It gets you started. There is, of course, that's a resource that you can do. That's great if you can afford it. But I wanted to have everyone feel like, you know what, I can do this and make it happen for myself. And if you have questions, like I said, please reach out to me. If you're an SBDC client, what you can do is you work with your lead advisor, and then they can set up a meeting for us to talk about your PR strategy. If you're not a client, join. And if you're in another part of the state, look to the SBDC in your area to see how you can become a client. I know we have a lot of people actually from Fresno that joined us, at least 5 that I saw from Fresno. So that's very cool. And some nonprofits and all different kinds. I was looking at, I looked at all the people that had signed up as of 8 o'clock this morning, and it was just such a variety. So I know I didn't address every industry or aspect. So if there's questions that I can answer, let's spend like the next 10 minutes answering.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
We have one question, also from Don Maruska. I have multiple lines of business: climate action, master coaching for leaders, and solving tough issues. How do you recommend handling multiple offerings and multiple audiences?
I would say he would create his marketing plan and his strategy for targeting these different audience for these different sectors, and then create a campaign for each one. So it's going to be something that I would say you'd really look at what's your greatest priority. And if you haven't done your brand strategy or working on your business, I would start there and really knowing your customer that you're going after first, and then kind of working back from that to create your plans going forward. Is he an SBDC client? Okay. These are great questions, and sometimes I need a little more thought about it, where I could come back to him, or he can email me and we can answer those more specifically. Okay. Anyone, do you guys have questions? We're meeting tomorrow. You can grill me then. Okay. Okay. Anyone else?
I think that's it. We have someone that says thank you. They're very excited.
Oh, good. Well, it was fun to know a lot of friends that were here joining, and I hope I didn't, it's a lot of information, but again, I wanted people to feel like, hey, I understand PR now and how it works for small business, and thank your local, thank your reporters, follow the news, and also use AI wisely and check sources. And remember that relationships are what matter most. And even though technology tools change every single day, it always comes down to human connection. And I hope we don't lose that. Yeah.
Sorry, we do actually have one more question. It says, would you recommend having a separate email address just for PR?
If you can, yeah.
Okay.
If you can, that'd be great. It also looks more professional.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Becky. Okay.
I mean, we can, if people have questions, they can email me, Becky at Yobeco,
Awesome.
after this, if they think of something or don't want to ask in front of everyone else.
Sounds great.
Oh yeah, let me finish that.
Okay.
I think that's the slide. So that's what's going to be, and I added stuff, like I said, when we were talking about social media news consumption, there's the data, distribution, email samples, creating your digital press kit, how to write the pitch. Some of that might be repetitive, sorry. Yeah, and the case I added the PR campaign for the small business that I added on there as well, to see the steps that they took to launch their company. So that's on there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for putting together this amazing resource folder. Just as a reminder, we will be following up. I did provide the link in the chat, but I'll also follow up via email so you can access that.
Thanks, Nikki.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody, for
much.
joining your busy day.
Yeah, and then just a quick reminder that we have an upcoming event. It's usually coffee and conversation, but we're doing a little bit of a twist this month. It's Cabernet and Conversation with the Vice President of Hope Family Wines, Gretchen Roddick. She is a Cal Poly alumni, and it'll be great to hear her journey all the way from Cal Poly through Hope Family Wines. So that'll be on June 16th, and it's going to be happening in hybrid format in Paso Robles, I believe at the Sandbox, and you can also join online. 4:30 to 6 p.m. since it is Cabernet, which is
Bring your wine if you're on Zoom.
Yeah. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. Thank you so much, Becky.
Oh yeah, have wine there, have it. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much.